Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar, Introduction to National Monument Campaigns in California. Thanks so much for joining us today. My name is Felix Wang, and I'm the Public Lands Fellow with California Environmental Voters. We've put on this webinar in collaboration with Latino Outdoors, and we're really excited to be talking to you about the different national monument campaigns in California. There are 3 going on right now: the Chuckwalla campaign, the Sáttítla Medicine Lake Highlands campaign, and the Quechan campaign. We have speakers from each of these campaigns here today to tell you more about them and learn from these people who are working on it on the ground. Before we begin, we would like to do a bit of a land acknowledgement or tribal acknowledgement, just given the nature of our work, and especially because we want to make sure that these lands are co-stewarded and co-managed by tribal leaders so that they can continue to protect the places that are important to them and that they have been living in and stewarding since time immemorial. I will pass it to Jazz.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jazzy Taylor. I go by Jazz. I am the policy advocate with Latino Outdoors, and I'd like to start with the land acknowledgement. Latino Outdoors and our communities acknowledge with great gratitude the original stewards of our lands. We recognize their deep connection to these places since the time immemorial and their ongoing guidance and leadership as we work to protect sacred sites and natural resources. We are committed to working collaboratively with tribes and indigenous people, community leaders, to ensure a future where the values and traditional knowledge of communities are respected and prioritized as we work to conserve, protect our public lands and national monuments. I joined today from the ancestral lands of Miwok and Nisyan in Sacramento, Northern California.
Thank you so much for that, Jazz. And as for what we will be talking about today, first, I'll explain what a national monument is for those that don't know and how they get established. We'll talk about the recent victories of the expansions of Mulugliuk and the San Gabriel Mountains. And then we'll talk about the current ongoing campaigns, Chuckwalla with speaker Luke Basulto from the National Parks Conservation Association, Sáttítla, or Medicine Lake Highlands, with Brandy McDaniels from Pitt River Nation. And finally, the Kw'tsán National Monument with Councilman Donald Medart Jr. and Jonathan Koteen from the Fort Yuma Quechan Indian tribe. Finally, we'll be talking about how you can get involved and how you can protect these special places and take any questions from the audience. So if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat at any time, and we will address them at the end of the presentation. Okay, so firstly, what is a national monument? National monuments are public spaces that people can enjoy, similar to national parks. However, they are established by a presidential proclamation instead of by Congress. So this was made possible with the 1906 Antiquities Act. It allows the president to proclaim historic landmarks, historic and prehistoric structures, and other objects of historic and scientific interest as national monuments. Once Once the president signs this into an executive order, these lands are immediately protected, so Congress does not need to pass a law. This is also a way for tribes to protect their values and work collaboratively with the federal government to manage and protect land. And it permanently protects it from future development, but allows for current land uses such as ceremonies, community gatherings, and recreation. This is the process for how lands can become a monument. The first step is that local tribes submit a petition to the Department of Interior stating their intention to create a national monument. Then local communities can collect petitions and letters of support and endorsements to show how much they care about it and show that there's like a reason and a need for this monument. After that, senators and House representatives will draft legislation based on the proposal and introduce it and try to gather support on that level. Next, a representative from the Department of Interior will visit and survey the land to see if it's an appropriate place and learn more about it. After that, the Department of Interior organizes a public hearing, which is where community members can share their comments and concerns and explain why they want that monument. This is a chance to go on public record and show your support. Finally, if all of these things go well, then the president can designate the land as a national monument with the Antiquities Act. National monuments are really important places because they can protect tribal sacred sites and values, protect biodiversity such as native floral and fauna, fight the climate crisis, and create access to recreation and nature. I think a lot of these are a bit self-explanatory, and we'll hear from each of the different monument campaigns, like how these places will protect sacred sites and protect biodiversity. But I did want to explain the fight the climate crisis point since it might not be the most immediately obvious. Public lands and preserving land is actually a really great way to fight the climate crisis because this allows for carbon capture, it allows for natural carbon storage. So it's a great way to protect against development, protect against extraction, and let nature do its job. Let nature be the lungs for the planet. With that being said, I'll pass it to Jazz to talk about some recent national monument wins in California.
Thanks, Felix. I appreciate it. Well, amazing news. And I'm excited to announce, if you don't know already, on May 2nd of this year, 2024, President Biden has taken historic steps to protect nearly 120,000 acres of public lands in California by expanding the San Gabriel Mountains and also expansion of Molecuola Berryessa Snow Mountain National Monument. This monumental movement was an action to preserve these areas that obviously have cultural and historic significance to our tribes as well indigenous people, but also to many communities that are connected to the areas. Also shows as potential recreational areas in the future for visitors. And since taking office, President Biden and Vice President Harris have committed to the most ambitious climate and conservation agenda in history. Their America the Beautiful initiative aims to conserve 30% of the United States lands and waters by 2030, which is also known as 30 by 30. Also, we have a California 30 by 30 campaign as well. And so I'm super excited that these will protect millions of acres and join millions of acres across the entire nation to preserve sacred lands and spaces for generations to come. This proclamation is definitely a testament to the countless efforts and those on the ground, the stewards, the indigenous people, the grassroots organizers, indigenous people who are not federally recognized, who continuously to show up countless time and time again to manage, steward, and really protect these areas for the biodiversity, the wildlife, but also as recreational opportunities or to escape the climate that they uh, have in urban communities. I have had an opportunity to visit both of the landscapes with other organizations and community leaders, and they both have unique uh, fauna, floral, wildlife, and serve as learning opportunities to, expand our connectivity to Mother Earth. Again, I'm just super excited. And if you don't know already, again, your voice matters in these movements. And we want you to continue on even after the celebration and victory for the protection of both these areas. Uh, it's a celebratory event, and we definitely want to take that moment to recognize all the hard work behind the scenes. Thank all the representatives across California who continuously show up and listen to the communities and what they want. Senator Padilla, Secretary Deb Haaland, Representative Judy Chu, and countless others on our local, city, state, and federal levels. But your voice matters. After a national monument is designated, as Felix kind of have mentioned very briefly, we need to get more resources and funding. And so we need you to stay active and engaged for public comments, for us to create a resource management plan to hold agencies and departments and representatives accountable to give funding and resources to not only the agencies, but nonprofits, grassroots organizers, tribal leaders, and also indigenous people so that they can continue to steward the lands, but eventually, right, manage the land themselves. And so, again, it's a marathon, not a race, and we need you for the next decade and next continuous generations, and your kids and their kids and cousins and primos. So please, please, please celebrate with us as we continue to acknowledge that not only the San Gabriel's Mountains National Monument and Molokiolak Berryessa are important, but there's other sacred spaces and lands here throughout California and across the nation that need your protection. So thank you for allowing me to share my enthusiasm to join you in the outdoors. And if I haven't joined you, I'm super excited to join you in the future. So thank you, Felix.
Thank you so much for that, Jazz. I couldn't have said it better myself. Next up, we will be talking about the ongoing National Monument campaigns. First with Luke Basulto from the National Parks Conservation Association to speak about Chuckwalla National Monument and the Joshua Tree National Park expansion.
Hey, am I coming in okay? Sweet. So hi, everybody. As Felix said, I'm Luke Basulto. I'm with the National Parks Conservation Association, and just a little bit about myself. I grew up in the desert. I grew up in a little town called Barstow, California, right between Los Angeles and Las Vegas. So the desert is pretty much all I know. So I'm happy to work unfortunate to work on a campaign that helps preserve parts of it like this. So I'm also a part of a larger coalition, the Protect California Deserts Coalition, and I'm actually here to talk about two things, right? So one of those things is the Chuckwalla National Monument, the big 600,000+ acre monument just south of Joshua Tree, and the other being an expansion of Joshua Tree National Park, a 17,000 acre, a little bit more than 17,000 acre expansion of the park. So I'll get right into Chuckwalla first. Kind of the big question, right, is why Chuckwalla? Like, why is this area deserving of this like very important monument status? And a major and vitally important part of this campaign that I want to put up front has been the involvement and support of tribal governments in this area of the desert. This area being considered as culturally important to the tribes and the preservation of their cultural landscape, which includes numerous important cultural sites. That has always been a priority for this campaign and continues to be a priority as we get to this point that we're in. More so, a reason for this monument would be that if I don't have a map to show everybody, but if you look at the different protections that our desert in California currently has, be that national parks or areas of critical environmental concern, wilderness areas, even military bases, which are protected in the fact that there's not really any access to them. They're protected in that right. If you look at all those lands, there's a kind of a big missing puzzle piece, and that missing puzzle piece is right between Joshua Tree National Park and the Chocolate Mountains Aerial Gunnery Range, which would be our Chuckwalla area. So that adding this area to these already existing protections kind of solidifies a massive connection. It's a connecting point to connect all these areas of land. That's really important for wildlife and just general habitat connectivity. So within the Chuckwalla National Monument, it's also one of the things that I really care a lot about is the sheer amount of desert tortoise critical habitat that is contained within this monument. There's about 400,000 acres of critical habitat designated by U.S. Fish and Wildlife that we would be protecting with this monument. And for those of you who don't know, the Mojave Desert Tortoise was recently just uplisted to a state endangered species. So this is kind of timely that we have an opportunity to protect a ton of really vital habitat for them. And that is awesome to me. This is such a huge motivator to keep going in this, is to get that habitat for the tortoises. And I'll go on about tortoises all night, so I gotta pull myself away from this. So aside from the tortoise, there are also numerous endemic and unique species in the Chuckwalla area. Rare plant communities like the dry wash or microfill woodlands, which are really important to migrating birds across the desert. They provide sort of like a place to stop and rest or nest. Some of the plants that are there, like the Mecca aster, are endemic. They're only found in that area. That's the only place on Earth that they're found. So there's also a few really unique cacti species there. I'm also a really big cactus nut. So we have one of the largest cacti in North America, the Munz's cholla, which is like a tree cholla. It gets like 12 feet tall, and you got to see it to believe it, but it's a massive, spiny, crazy looking cactus. And there's also a cholla, a really spiny guy named for the Chuckwalla area. It's called the Chuckwalla cholla. So we're protecting a lot of pretty cool things, pretty cool organisms out there too. Provides great habitat for bighorn sheep. And there's also a potential for the reintroduction of Sonoran pronghorn to this area eventually from U.S. Fish and Wildlife down the road. All super cool stuff. It goes without saying that this monument also has some really huge importance to the neighboring communities, especially communities of color in the East Coachella Valley, as a place just to visit and connect to the desert landscape. In the spirit of that connection, recreation is a major way that people connect, right? So whether it's riding a motorcycle or hiking or rock hounding or even hunting, those activities help people connect to landscapes, in their own ways, and build their own connections and build passion for places. Sometimes they're seen as detrimental to an area, right? But if it wasn't for myself, I'll choose myself as an example. If it wasn't for me doing a lot of these things growing up as a desert kid, I wouldn't be the desert advocate that I am today. So the importance of accessibility to these places to recreate and to build that connection in different ways is also a major part of this campaign that we want to preserve. And so we're doing all we can to make sure that those things remain an option for these areas. And that's always been a major thing for this campaign as well. And and as Jazz mentioned, with the recent expansions, it also provides an escape from urban environments, right? So this provides areas like these, like monuments or just wild spaces in general, provide such a great opportunity for huge improvements in mental health. And that's been at the forefront for our congressional champions, as well as for us. It's just making sure that communities of color, especially like in the East Coachella Valley, have access to a place where they can get away from it, where they can relax, they can breathe in some air and flip over some rocks, So Yeah, I think that generally covers Chuckwalla and what the great things about some of the great things about Chuckwalla are. I mean, I know I only have like 6 to 10 minutes here, so I'm going to go right into the Joshua Tree expansion, which is 50% of this campaign. It's real easy to get for this part to get lost in the scheme and the grandeur of the huge Chuckwalla National Monument, but I want to give a little bit of history about what this even is for those who don't know. So this area, which is just on the eastern boundary of Joshua Tree, if you look at a map of Joshua Tree, there's like this kind of big like cutout on the east side, and you might think like that's a weird way to draw like a boundary with like a huge missing part out of it, but this area was actually studied in really great detail back in 2016 by the National Park Service, and it identified that this proposed park expansion was an area that they called a key building block for wildlife migration and landscape conservation in the California desert. At that point, the Park Service saw this as a welcome addition to Joshua Tree National Park. They were ready to go with that. They still feel that way, thankfully. But unfortunately, that effort was delayed back in 2016 because of a change in administration. So it kind of got held up by that. But now we're in a place where it's a real possibility that we can do this. And so it was initially a part of the Joshua Tree National Monument. It was removed for purposes of mining because of the need for iron to support our troops in World War II. The intention being to re-add this to the park if the mines were to ever go defunct or if lands weren't industrially developed. And the 17,000 acres that we are proposing for re-addition does not include any of the pit mines that were created or any of the other state or private property in that area. But it only includes 17,000 or so acres of the federal lands that remain that are contiguous with the national park. Those federal lands provide even more protection for critters like bighorn sheep and desert tortoise. It provides another 4,000 acres of critical habitat in the western portion of the expansion area, which is awesome. We need all the habitat protection we can get for those critters. And by adding, really what it comes down to is by adding this back to Joshua Tree, we're making the park whole again. And that's kind of how I like to look at it. You know, this is a part of the park that was originally intended to be included, but now we're just in a place, and I'm very excited to be in this place of finally being able to do that for the national park and for those lands. I guess I'll finish up now. I kind of lost track of time, but so I'll just kind of say where we are in the process. Just last week, we had a huge milestone. We met with the Secretary of the Interior, Deb Haaland. She came out to the landscape to check it out, to hear from people involved, our coalition and tribes, and that went really well. It's a massive success that I think everybody is still kind of riding the high for. What comes next, as a lot of you learned earlier, is the preparation for a public meeting. So that's sort of the phase of the campaign that we're in now. It's go time, basically. You know, things are really moving once the secretary got out here and heard us out. And so really we're getting all the support we can to urge the Biden administration to sign this monument and park expansion into existence. So I guess please sign our petition. If you haven't already, get like 3 or 10 of your friends and family to sign it too. It should be linked somewhere. If anybody has any questions about Chuckwalla or the Joshua Tree National Park expansion, please feel free to email me. I love talking about this stuff, and I love teaching people about this stuff. So that's all I got. Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much, Luke, for sharing all of that. We're really excited to hopefully see Chuckwalla National Monument established. Like he said, since Secretary Haaland visited the lands recently, the next step in that process is getting a public meeting scheduled. And that will be done by the Department of the Interior. So we're not sure when that happens yet. But we're really excited to see this campaign moving forward. Moving on, going all the way up north now to Sáttítla National Monument, I'd like to invite Brandy McDaniels from Pitt River Nation to the stage so that she can speak about these lands that her tribe lives on. I'm not sure if Brandy is, oh, there she is. Hi,
Oh,
Brandy,
can you hear me?
welcome. Yes.
Chumisamui, yeah. I'm Brandy, and I'm from Pitt River Nation, and we're looking to get a national monument designation for this very special place that we call Sáttítla, which includes an area that is commonly known as the Medicine Lake Highlands. And it's a very unique and important place for my people culturally and spiritually, as it is the actual place of our creation narrative, in addition to being in ongoing, continuously used area since time immemorial for our people, for ceremonies and tribal gatherings, naming our children, and whatnot. And outside of the fact that it's so special and important to the Pitt River people, it's a very important place for our region, the state of California, and the world, because it is a natural buffer to climate change. And there's a lot of really fun and cool facts about Sáttítla. The very fragile and complex aquifer stores more pure water resources than 200 of California's largest surface reservoirs combined, and it even does that in drought years. And these waters flow from the highlands into what's called the Fall River, which is the largest spring fed river system in all of California. Those waters then go to what's called a Shasta Lake, and those waters are dammed. They're dammed up by Shasta Dam, but the main arm of Shasta Lake is the Pitt River arm, and these are the waters of my people. And my people, if you're not familiar with the Pitt River people, we're in the 4 northeastern counties of California, which is Lassen, Shasta, Modoc, and Siskiyou counties. So since time immemorial, since the beginning of time, since the first twinkling of light, our people have lived along these waterways, and these 11 autonomous bands that make up the Pitt River Nation still maintain their connections and their land bases along these waterways. And so that main arm of Shasta Lake, when those waters are released from the other side of Shasta Dam, they rename these waters the Sacramento River, and the Sacramento then goes into all the way down to the San Francisco Bay, and that's the traditional way in which the salmon runs would happen prior to the damming of these waters. And when these waters reach the Bay Area, they're then aqueducted to the furthest reaches of California. So you could understand like how important these waters are to habitats, ecosystems, fisheries, agriculture, or just having access to pure water resources. So yeah, it's really amazing and spectacular. I also like and we're sharing just a little bit of the landscape, and up there, as you can see, it's really described like there's wonders around every corner, and it really is. And the other name that that's been given to this place is Medicine Lake Highlands, right? That's in our language, this place name is Sáttítla, but even non-native people have realized that this place is a healing place, and given it such a name as Medicine Lake Highlands. And we have countless stories of people that have gone to this very special place and have been healed. And it's so this place, because it's so important, we're also we're seeking the National Monument designation. And, we're really needing everyone's help in that respect to really call on President Biden to use the Antiquities Act to, preserve this. It really is a national treasure. And we're also seeking an outstanding national resource water designation for this area too, which has only been done twice in California, which is Lake Tahoe and Mono Lake. Also, this has been identified as a pathway to 30 by 30, but in that they designate it as a pathway, but they don't designate a roadmap to get there. So we have to do a lot of work as tribal folk to get these protections in place. And we really need these long-term protections solutions for these healing places for us. We are people of a genocide. And, and we've actually, this place is under threat. It's constantly under threat. We've actually been in litigation with the Bureau of Land Management for over 2.5 decades to protect these sacred lands and waters that, so many people rely on. And a lot of people don't understand that. And we're doing that with pro bono attorneys and with very limited resources. And we're dedicating our lives to preserve something that that people enjoy, but they actually don't know that we've been out here doing this and dedicating our lives to this. And we really need long-term protection solutions so that our children and our children's children can don't have to fight their whole lives to defend something that would seem so simple that you would need to protect, and yet the government wants to industrialize these areas in the name of green energy. And it really makes zero sense to industrialize an area that in the name of climate change, when it is already a natural buffer to climate change. And as I was sharing, like not only for our region and to California, how I was sharing how far reaching, these waters are for the state of California, but as a natural buffer to climate change for the entire world. Right. So it's really important and imperative that we protect it, and we protect it now, because the threats don't stop happening. Projects still are being proposed in this area to drill and directionally drill into this very fragile and complex aquifer. Being a person that I'm a Medici band cultural representative for my band. There's 11 autonomous bands, as I shared with you. I go out and I do water testing with colleagues, and they're continuously blown away. If you do water testing, you'll know that you have to collect the water in a certain way. You have to get it to a lab in a certain amount of time. But there's devices you can use out in the field, and my colleagues are just and shock and awe and surprise that these open water sources are coming back with the readings of basically they say the consistency of distilled water. And mind you, these waters have things living in them. And then we also have the Forest Service planting diseased fish in these waters, right? So and so it's really amazing that we can still get those types of readings from these waters, and these places are still intact. And it's super important that these places do remain intact, because for the things that we do as Indigenous people up there, every blade of grass, every speck of sand, every element of the area is required for the sensory experience that you need to engage with these landscapes and receive those gifts that you need to receive when you're up there. So another fun fact about this area is it's known for its very high quality of silence, right? That you would get nowhere else on Earth. Also a flora and fauna that can only be found in this part of the world. And also night skies. And a lot of people don't understand the importance of night skies. So there's countless reasons why it's important to save this very special place of our Earth. It's truly is a world a heritage site that needs protection now, and we really would we need to take action, and we're looking for people to sign our petitions or send letters of support if you or resolutions if you're with an organization to protect Sáttítla and the values that it presents and for everyone yeah. So with that, there's so much more I can share, but and I believe you guys are going to share. Our website is www.protectmedicine-lake-highlands.org, where you can sign our petition and learn more about the Highlands and Sáttítla. And with that, Cecilia Aya, I'm happy that you would to share this with you all. And I really appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Brandy. We really appreciate you coming on here as well to share your experience with us and tell us all about these lands and why they're so important to protect. Definitely agree, just knowing how important these waters are and how much tribal history there is behind these places. And really hoping that we can get this designated as a national monument soon and as an important natural water resource. And finally, for our third campaign in California, the Quechan National Monument, I'd like to invite Councilman Donald Medart Jr. and Jonathan Koteen of the Fort Yuma Quechan Indian Tribe. So thank you so much for joining us here today.
Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Donald Medart Jr., and I have the pleasure of serving as a councilman with Fort Yuma Quechan Indian Tribe. And so I come to you tonight from our tribal chambers here on the Quechan land on our reservation. But I'd like to say thank you for the for providing this platform for us to be able to share our information and to be able to reach out for support. So thank you very much for that. It's greatly appreciated. So we did prepare a slideshow that I'm going to really stray away from and really just kind of give you guys the meat and potatoes of what our proposal is about. So the Fort Yuma Quechan Indian Tribe, we're located at the southeasternmost portion of California. We are located in Arizona and in California, and we border Mexico. So our proposal is directly adjacent to our reservation to the west and to the north of our current reservation, but is in the heartland of our Aboriginal lands. So the last year in 2023, on the 4th of July, the Quechan Tribal Council decided that we were going to propose a national monument. We had a recent victory just at the beginning of this year where we had fought off a gold mine that was proposing to come into our lands or into our area and to further desecrate the mountains that we hold very sacred as a tribe. So we had a victory over Canada's S&P Gold Corporation, And so that allowed us an opportunity to send them back to the planning stages and to hopefully buy us some more time to gain protections for the land. So that victory is there. We're very excited for it, but we know that we need to do more. So the history of the proposal, like I had discussed before, we passed a resolution on July 4th as a Quechan tribal government to propose a national monument in this area. We've spent the past over 100 years fighting the 1872 mining laws that have allowed people to desecrate our sacred sites out in the desert. One of the biggest issues that we've had is mining. So as most of you know what? Can we just pull the slideshow down, and we'll just go off of that. So I just want to talk to you, on a more personal basis rather than going through just slide by slide. So the Quechan tribe, we really felt the importance of the protection of these lands. We've continued over and over to fight off mining proposals, to fight off different projects in the area. And we really, sat down as a government and said, what can we do to protect these lands? So these lands, if you're not aware, are very sacred to us. They're part of a greater landscape that connects us back to our religion. So the Quechan people, we originate from Aviquame, which we're very excited was designated as a national monument last year. And so we're super excited about that, but we know that the greater landscape needs to be protected because that's the origin of the Quechan people, but that's not the only part of the Quechan story. So we pass through the areas which are now being designated as the Quechan National Monument, and as well as the proposed Chuckwalla National Monument. So we're a huge supporter of the Chuckwalla National Monument campaign, and we have been from the very beginning. So one of the biggest things that we like to put out there is just that this landscape is greater than the boundary markers that are put on it in current times. So the Quechan people traversed these deserts, these lands, and we didn't just survive in these lands, we thrived in these lands, and we have since time immemorial. We've been the best stewards of these lands, and we understand that, we weren't the only people in the area, but, we've reached out and we've worked with other tribes, and we've, tried to do our due diligence to make sure that each and every tribe that, has equity in these lands, has had their voice heard. But the Quechan National Monument is about 390,000 acres of land, like I said, that's directly adjacent to our reservation, that are currently BLM lands mostly, but there are some state lands mixed in there. These areas encompass tons of trail systems. There are individual artifacts, lithics, there are petroglyphs, geoglyphs, and a lot of other things that have not even been discovered yet. And so for our protection, or for the protection of these lands, we're seeking this monument. We're seeking this extra level of protection. We understand that, expansion is going to happen eventually, that, people want to recreate in these areas, and we're not against recreation, but we want it done in a responsible way that will protect the religion of the Quechan people. As a Quechan person myself, I believe that, this desert tells our story. This desert tells, the history of the Quechan people, and it also, gives us some insight into the future of the Quechan people. We can look out into these deserts today. We can take our children, we can take our young ones out into these deserts, and we can show them the history of the Quechan people. We can talk about our songs, we can talk about our stories, and we can talk about everything that makes us Quechan, and we can show that out in the desert. We're very unique in that, most people in this world would have to travel halfway across the globe just to get to their place of origin, their place of, where they migrated, where their ancestors migrated from. But it's directly in our backyard. And so we'll do, whatever we can to protect these areas. And, even if you're not a traditional person, if you're not a religious person, if you just look at these lands for the sheer beauty of them, you look at the flora and fauna in the area, you look at the wildlife that are there. I mean, this desert contains so much life. It's crazy. it's crazy just to think, how many, when it's 120 degrees outside, people traverse Interstate 8 and they think absolutely nothing is living in the desert, but it is absolutely thriving. Like Luke said earlier, there are keystone species out in our desert, like the tortoise, that just deserve the protection, and they deserve, to have a beautiful habitat to continue to live in, just like the Quechan people deserve to continue to practice our religious ceremonies. We deserve to, teach our history to our children, and we deserve to have those things protected, and so that's, I'm trying to get a lot into a small time frame here, because I also want to give, my fellow councilman, John Koteen, some time to talk, but it's just an amazing, it's an amazing proposal that we have a ton of support, but we need more support. We're in the phase right now where we're looking to garner any letters of support, anyone who's willing to go to protectquechan.org and sign our online petition to show your support. It would be amazing if we could get each and everyone who's on this live right now to just go over there, to add your support, input your information, and that goes truly a long way for us as a Quechan people. But I'll go ahead and turn the mic over to Councilman Koteen.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jonathan Koteen. I'm also a council member for the Fort Yuma Quechan Indian Tribe. As you can tell, this proposed monument is very important to us as Quechan people. The Quechan National Monument will protect over 390,000 acres of the Fort Yuma Quechan Indian Tribe's homelands located in Imperial County, California. These lands are currently managed by the Bureau of Land Management, contain incredible cultural, ecological, recreational, scenic, and historic values that must be preserved for the benefit and enjoyment of present and future generations. The Fort Yuma Quechan Indian Tribe has proposed this new national monument, and the Quechan people remain committed to the preservation of cultural values, belief systems, life ways, traditional practices, and the sovereign legal rights of Native American people. The Fort Yuma Quechan Indian Tribal Council is requesting that the Biden administration designate this new monument through the Antiquities Act and establish an intergovernmental stewardship agreement between the tribe and federal agencies. This would mean that the Quechan values, knowledge, expertise, and worldviews will be incorporated into the new monument management plan. Tribal citizens will be able to continue conducting ceremonies, cultural activities, and gatherings within the protected area. Our intricate trail systems, which include Medicine Trail, the Quechan Trail of Dreams, and the Ogilvie Hills Trail, are lifelines to our cultural roots and connect our people with neighboring tribes and relatives on the upper and lower Colorado River. We use them for trading, farming, hunting, gathering, and spiritual purposes. They protect our cremation sites and the remnants of our ceremonial fire hearths, sleeping circles, and vision quest circles, which are central to our rites of passage ceremonies. They have been harmed by transmission lines, telecommunication towers, canals, gold mining, riprap processing, and large-scale energy projects. The proposed Quechan National Monument encompasses sacred sites and artifacts of great cultural importance to our tribe and surrounding communities. We urge federal authorities to ensure that the Antiquities Act is employed diligently to safeguard these sites, granting them the highest level of protection and respect they deserve. Thank you for listening, and looking forward to some questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilman, for your comments and for telling us all about this proposal and campaign. Next up, as everyone has been talking about, there's a few different ways to get involved, such as signing the petitions that have been linked in the chat, recreating responsibly, and just trying to be good stewards of the land, just as Indigenous tribes have been since time immemorial. Please also tell your friends about these initiatives and ask them to sign on as well. It's a lot more compelling coming from a friend, and it's a great way we can use our network to try to protect these lands. And you can also follow these various social media pages so that you can stay up to date with everything that's happening. There are pages for each of the campaigns Protect CA Desert is for the Chuckwalla campaign, Protect Sáttítla for Sáttítla, Medicine Lake Highlands, and Protect Quechan. We'll be posting about things as they happen on the ground, and keeping everyone updated on what they can do to help with all these amazing efforts. And for the last about 8 minutes left of our live, we would like to invite anyone to ask questions to our speakers today. We also asked some of our members to submit questions before the live, so we can get started with those as other people put their questions into the chat. So the first question that we have is the best ways for like the everyday person to get involved with these initiatives. I'd like to invite the panelists back up to the stage and invite them to answer these questions. So,
I can jump in here. Yeah, so the best way that you can help us is, sign our petitions, because we need to let President Biden know that this is important and why it's important. And so that's the first thing you can do is sign our petitions and increase our support books on this. And we have been garnering for Sáttítla a lot of support on our end and that front. Also, letters of support if you're with an organization or bigger groups, and or other tribes, tribal resolutions. All of those things are helpful. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Oh, you're gonna go, Donald?
Yeah, I would say the exact same thing. Go to our protectquechan.org, sign the petition, and hit share. Like it and share it. You know, if you see our social media out there, like it and share it, because there may be someone who sees your post that we couldn't have previously reached, and so any assistance is greatly appreciated. And we've been saying from the very beginning that if you want to write, if you're willing to take the time to write a letter of support for the Kw'tsán National Monument, we would be very excited to accept it. There's no organization too big or too small. If you want to write it on behalf of you and your family, or you want to write it on behalf of you and your children, or for yourself, we'll accept it. We appreciate any and all support. So that would be the greatest way at this point to support the Kw'tsán National Monument.
Yeah, I'll just echo everything that was said there, and add that I think an important thing anybody can do is learn about these places and learn about these people. You know, I think everybody here is a wealth of information. Obviously, there's a lot of information out there, but learn about the areas that we're talking about here. You know, learn about these animals and these plant species that we've been talking about, and that's just such a great catalyst to building a passion for the places, much like the passion we've built. I mean, we built this passion because we understand these places and we know these places. So taking the time to learn a little bit about it will go really far in building a love for it and being more willing to support and to get other people to support.
Yeah, very well said. Thank you so much. The next question that we have is, what are the barriers that you have been encountering in these efforts? I know some of you already talked a bit on that, but feel free to expand here, the things that you're working against right now, and yeah, what's the struggle?
I would say honestly, on the part of the Kw'tsán National Monument, our struggle at this point is that we don't know what we don't know, and so there are partnerships that we have yet to make that will give us continued aha moments and lead us on the path to getting this designation done. But we've had some really great examples, like the Bears Ears National Monument, in our work on Chuckwalla, to get us through this process. But my hope is that, you know, through these processes, once we get these designations, that we can be a resource and a further roadmap to other tribes who are seeking to protect their their sacred lands. And so I would say at this point, that's been our biggest hiccup in the road, is just that, it's a new process for us. And, fortunately, we've had some amazing partners come out of the woodworks and assist us, some amazing non-governmental organizations that have reached out, extended the olive branch and said, here you go. This is, what we can help with. And so it's been absolutely amazing.
I guess I can jump in here. I shared already. We've been in litigation for over 2.5 decades to defend this area, against the BLM and Calpines who want to industrialize this area. And we really and the threats don't stop. This place is under threat, and it's really important that we keep it intact and we preserve the resources that are up there. And so like getting, the government people to the table, I think we're having those talks and finding this putting this long-term protection solution in place. So, like I said, so my children, my children's children don't have to keep on fighting to defend this very, sacred and special place, this healing place that they need. They need this place so that they can heal from the past, genocidal acts against us, right? They don't need to be fighting, their whole lives, like we have been, and one thing that I can say about my children is they will never know a time when they have not been able to dance their dances, sing their songs, and conduct their ceremonies, because those things were taken away from us. And so it's time. There's initiatives, Truth and Healing, as you know, and 30 by 30, and it's time that that people take that seriously and take action and protect these places if they're being real and serious about those initiatives. Cecilia, thank you.
Yeah, I guess I'll just add really quickly that I think a general hurdle for establishing a monument, especially in the desert here, is history. There's always no process can ever be completely perfect, and there's been issues that have popped up in the past with previous monuments that different communities, especially the recreation community, remember. They're missteps from one way or another, but they are things that come up as we're trying to build trust for this process. It's probably always going to be a hurdle for trying to get a monument established in this area, but I think that's the thing that comes to mind most, is just like, we're contending with the past and all the things that happened then.
Great, thank you for sharing. I know we are at time, but there was one last question that I wanted to ask everyone that's hopefully more fun, which is, what is your favorite part of this area, or like a part of this area that has really special meaning to you? This is something that I just love to hear. So love to hear your stories.
For me, there's so many stories. This is a tribal cultural landscape, and with that, the landscape tells the story of my people, and that's why it is so important that it stays intact. And there's sacred alignments. It's a constellation. It's not just a sacred site. It's a sacred place. It's a constellation of sacred sites. And like I said, to go to this area, you need everything that it provides, all the way, like I said, all the way down to a blade of grass, to the speck of sand. That's all part of the sensory experience required to receive those gifts that not only Indigenous people have, know about, but non native folk have experienced those same experiences up there and healing. So it's hard to put in the English language what it actually means to my people. And then also it's also the homelands of the Modoc people, which I don't speak for the Modoc people, but they definitely support us. They have, we're together in this endeavor, and they, through the Modoc Wars, they were displaced, and they're federally recognized in Oklahoma, but they still maintain their ties to this place. And so it's so talking about my children being on the land, their children are still needing that space to be able to come back and be in their homelands as well. So it's just, like I said, it's just hard to encapsulate it all, but again, just there's wonders around every corner, and I just tried to share a little bit with the slideshow that we have, and that can't even describe it. It's a feeling that you have, and it's an experience that you wouldn't know unless you experienced it. Thank you.
I would say if I absolutely had to narrow it down, one of the things that I truly love to see the most is going out into the desert and looking at the trails. So a trail, it looks just like, a line in the dirt, and you can see where it's coming from and where it's leading to. You can see both sides of it. But what I like to truly imagine is that our people traversed these lands before they were inhabited by anyone else. And I think about the tens of thousands of steps, the tens of thousands of individual feet that, beat that ground, beat this trail into the ground. And thinking about how long it took, for those, sandals to beat, through these rocks and to leave an impression in the earth that is still visible today. And so I just think about, just the power of that, and how many of my ancestors, traversed that land to leave the mark that we can still view today. And so that's one of my favorite things about it.
Yeah, and I guess one of my favorite things about this whole process is just having the opportunity to fight for something that I love. This is just I consider the desert it's my home, but I really do consider it like a member of my family. It feels like that. So being able to be in this space and being able to stick up for something I love that much is just it's a dream, not just with Chuckwalla and other facets of my job, but it's just something I get to I wake up every day and I'm just stoked to go to work. So yeah.
Hello. For me, I think the whole area is pretty significant and important to me because, as a native people to this area, we have a true connection to the land, to the animals, to the plants, everything out there. But I would have to agree with Councilman Donald Medart is the extensive trail network that not only connects us or, these different landscapes, and for us, Quechan, all the way from our creation story from Aviquame, but also the tribes. These trail systems connected all of the people, all of the tribes around here, and I just think that's it blows my mind to think about it and to hear the stories. Even personal stories. Like my mother always says that her great grandfather was a runner and he would run all over the place, and just the historical stories, of Quechan runners running all the way over as far as Fort Mojave to deliver a message within a day's time. And it's just, amazing to think about somebody, running out there in the desert and delivering this message that, could potentially save lives or whatever. So to me, I think that's very significant to me.
Thank you so much.
I just want to say that I love that, and just to share too that one of our biggest ceremonies is our ancestral run, and it starts up in Sáttítla. So I'm loving to hear that you guys are runners, and then people actually come before going to war and other things, modern day wars, right? That they would come to this area to get that power before going, right? And so it's just beautiful to hear, you talking about that as well. And that's when we have our ancestral run, and it's a spiritual run. It's not a marathon, but it starts up here in Sáttítla and goes throughout our homelands to honor the land and our ancestors. So, yeah, it's that's thanks for that.
Thank you all so much for sharing and for being here today. And please, I encourage everyone to support these national monument campaigns. They're really wonderful places. And like Brandy said, I think it is best to experience it in person if you can. And when you do, just make sure to be very respectful of the land. So please sign the petitions, follow us on social media, and we'll keep you up to date on the latest national monument news. We really hope to get more monuments designated and protect these lands in California. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we'll see you all next time.
Basulto. Thank you.